Well, welcome back. So in this video, yes, we're going to finally get into Kajabi and start talking about some good stuff. Now, good stuff is kind of a relative term because this is the area that I always suggest people start with. And it's not necessarily the most fun, but it's sort of a necessary evil. And I feel like if you hold your nose and get through your site settings, you're setting yourself up to be able to move forward quickly and efficiently as you start to build your products, your offers, your landing pages, your website, and your blog. So let's go into Kajabi and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So as you remember from the previous video, when you first log into your Kajabi site, this is the dashboard that you see. So in this video, we are going to be focusing on this little area right over here called settings. And I may have given you an overview in that previous video that we're talking about settings that have to do everything related to your site and what other people see and how your site operates. And down here we have account settings, which is everything related to your account with Kajabi. We don't need to deal with that at all today. What we're going to talk about is specifically our site settings. So the things that you need to be focused on is setting this information up ahead of time is, again, going to make things moving forward a whole lot easier for you. For example, with the site details, and we'll go in here right now, there's a couple of key areas here I want to talk about. Number one is when you see this title here, and you can see in my demo account, it says Deanna Fenton's first site. That is what other people are going to see when they get email from you, when they log into your site, when they look at the browser bar, the little tab at the top of the browser bar. This is what they're going to see. So if your entire site is your business name, you probably just want to have your business name. If you're a personal brand like me and you use your name, you might want to have your name plus what it is you do. Brand strategist, graphic designer, whatever it is that you want to have your site be identified. Now here is the subdomain, and we're going to cover custom domains in our next video. The default here for your subdomain is going to be your site name.mykajabi.com. Most people don't want to keep that. So we're going to address how you do your custom domain in the next video. And in the meantime, you can just leave it exactly as it is. Your support email address and a support phone number is information that's going to be used when transactional emails are sent out on your behalf by Kajabi. Those are such things as confirmations of purchasing an offer, being granted an offer, anything along those lines. So you want to make sure you have at least a support email address. Here is where you can set your default language and your default currency. Here is where you're going to determine, and you are going to tell Kajabi what page is going to be your home page. The default is something called the theme index. And that's just going to be the page that you will find under website and design. For your branding, you want to upload your logo, and you've got some your image dimensions right here. The favicon is this little, in this case, Kajabi's little logo right up here. I always recommend uploading it because otherwise it shows the Kajabi default. And your color palette. And the color palette is great because you can click on it. You can enter the hex code for your own branding colors. And then in any place where you can customize colors, all of your branding colors can be established. So it's a simple, easy way to make sure you have access to your own branding colors any place within working with Kajabi. Instructor, here you have an option of uploading a photo of yourself or whoever is your instructor, adding a name and a title. And here is where you have any page scripts. So this is typically a a little bit more advanced, but it might be something where you want to use another third-party tool, like maybe you want to use Help Scout, which is a pop-up customer support app that is available. And that would typically require you to paste a script in the header of your website to allow that to work. And that's where it would go. SEO and sharing, this is super, super important, because anywhere you share a link to your website, this is the information that's going to be publicly available. So that's why you want your page title. Again, it might be Deanna Fenton, Kajabi mentor and digital strategist, or your name, branding strategist and course creator, whatever would make sense that would identify your homepage. A short description, because the page description is also what will show up in Google. If somebody happens to Google your name or your website, that's what's going to show up. And a default page image could be your logo. It could be a photo of you. It's entirely up to you. But once again, if you're sharing your website in social media, this is the image that you want to show up. There's also this powered by Kajabi branding, which you can disable if you have the Growth Planner Hire. I would recommend you leave it, because it also contains your affiliate link. So if somebody clicked on it from your website and they decided to sign up for Kajabi, you just might get credit for it. So I'm going to go back to the settings again. Blog settings, very similar. Here again, you want the page title and your page description and an image, because if you're sharing your blog, you want to make sure that information is exactly what you want the public to see. Payment integrations. So, I mean, come on, we all want to get paid, right? So this is where you set up your PayPal account, your Stripe account. There are step-by-step information on how to do that, and we're not going to cover that in this particular training. Custom domain. I'm going to cover this in the next video, but this is if you own a domain name. Let's say you've registered myacademy.com and you want to use that domain for your Kajabi site. That is where you're going to set this up. And there are 2 ways to set it up, and we're going to talk about that in our next video. The mobile app settings. Yes, there is a mobile app. I highly recommend you upload an icon so that will show up in the mobile app. And you also have the option of setting some colors, and you don't have a ton of choices in these colors. And that is because of something called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. You want to choose something that's close enough to your branding colors to pass for your brand. Marketing settings. This is information that is going to show up, for example, on your emails. It is a anti-spam law that you have to have some type of physical address. Can be a PO box or mail stop address, but you need to have some kind of address showing in the footer of your emails. And that's just in the United States, that's just a law. Here you want to upload your logo if you want to have your logo appear in your marketing emails. Under email settings, this is where you can set the name that will appear in people's inboxes when they get your emails. And there is this from email address. And you'll see it says c.kajabimail.net. I know you're going to be tempted to want to put your email address in there. Just don't do it. For right now, Kajabi's email doesn't have the ability for us to use our own domain to send out these emails. So we're relying on the reputation of Kajabi's domain name to ensure good deliverability of our emails to our members. So I would not recommend that you change it. They're working on fixing that, but for right now, if you want your emails to really hit those inboxes and not spam, leave that alone. However, in the reply to email address, you want to put your email address, because that just means even if somebody clicks reply, as long as you have your email address in this box, it's going to come back to you. You can also set a default time to send out email sequences. Drip settings, I'm going to just go through these kind of quickly. You can determine if you're going to drip out content, let's say for a course. You can set a specific time that every new category or module is going to be dripped out. So maybe you want to make sure that they're available every 7 days at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and you set that timing right there. Third-party integrations, and of course, if you are choosing to use a third-party email service provider, you can connect them right here. You can see Kajabi integrates directly with Aweber, MailChimp, Drip, ConvertKit, and ActiveCampaign. Any other email marketing automation services that you might use will have to be integrated with Zapier. You also want to make sure that you can track your data of your Kajabi site by setting up a Google Analytics account. And if you're going to be running any Facebook ads and doing any kind of retargeting, you want to make sure that you have your Facebook pixel set up right here. And very easy, you just turn it on and you paste your pixel ID that you get from an ad account right there. Here again, to others talking about connecting anything outside of those email services at the top, you're going to use Zapier. Zapier also connects Kajabi to hundreds of other potential apps that you might want to use. And if you are a ClickFunnels user, you can also use ClickFunnels for your landing pages and have them connect to grant offers that are actually hosted in Kajabi. So that is all your third-party integrations. Fields, the fields are any of the fields that you are going to use for any of the forms within Kajabi. Your checkout settings allow you to either give people the option to opt into your email list at checkout, or you can make it automatic, which you see this big yellow warning comes up about that, or then completely disable the checkbox and members would not be added to your email list, which kind of doesn't make sense. You either probably want to use the optional or automatic. Webhooks, it is kind of beyond the scope of this email, but you can find out more information about that. That is setting up some automatic connections with other third-party tools. If somebody purchases from Kajabi, for example, you're sending that data to another platform. There's also checkout tracking code. This might be something where you're using, let's say, a Facebook custom conversion or something of that nature, where you're going to put some tracking code in there, but that is completely optional. Subscription cancellation, here is where your members you can give them permission to cancel their own subscriptions. And if you turn that off, then you're going to need to make sure that they have your support email address to request to be canceled, and you'll have to do that yourself. Email templates. Now, this has nothing to do with your marketing emails. These are transactional emails that are sent out automatically. For example, when somebody makes a purchase and creates a new account on Kajabi, you can have emails that welcome affiliates. If you are going to plan on having affiliates sign up to help sell your products. If you allow comments on your lessons in your product. If somebody leaves a comment, this is going to be the default email that will come to you. Drip notification, that's an automatic email that goes out when new content is available. So you can see here, there's a whole bunch of very specific, and these are, again, all basically automated transactional emails. If you want to edit any of these, just be very careful, because they are automatically generated by information that people enter. In this case, a new member, they're given a username and password. You don't want to mess with that information because it's pulling directly from that member's record. So those are all those email templates. And then static pages. Oh my gosh, I cannot stress how important this is. In Kajabi, there are several places where you will see the term pages, and you may think that's your landing pages or website pages that you've created or anything of that nature. Static pages are going to look something like that. Actually, that's probably not a good example. Let's go back. Let's try the privacy policy. Yeah, okay. And what happens is this is intended for all of the legal statements and disclaimers that that you really need to have on your website. The most important is your privacy policy, because that in many places is now a law that you need to have a stated privacy policy that anybody coming to your website can read if they want to. What is most important to know about this is Kajabi has simply given you some placeholder text. This content that is in here, as you can see, is referencing Kajabi, including their domain and basically their privacy policy. This may not be relevant for your business. Just the other day, in fact, Kajabi sent out an email and said, please don't use this as your privacy policy. You really need to do your research and get a privacy policy that is relevant for your country, your state, your type of business. And it's very, very important. Now, I'll link to some information that they provided about sources, but there are sources where you can get privacy policies that are going to be very specific to your needs. This is why I'm just saying this is one of the most important areas when you're setting up your site that you need to go into and update and add your own information. So that was an overview of all of your site settings. Most of these are going to be fairly straightforward and you're not going to have a lot of problems. In the next video, I will show you some background about your custom domain and setting that up. But for the most part, this is where you are going to manage this information. You're going to set these things up and they will be pretty much ready to go before you even start to build out your site. So join me in the next video where we're going to talk about creating your custom domain.